Hello, I am Korosh Mahdavi, and this is our fourth session of the Style Box. I hope we can get rid of the virus soon so that we can meet you in person. Now let's open a new project. We will create a new part. The previous assignment I asked you to do was to create a lampshade. That includes the three main actions we have learned so far: extrude, reveal, and sweep. I want to quickly do this in the middle now. First, I just want to create a frame where the lighting part of the lampshade will be placed. I want to work with the tidy sketch. Look, I want to draw a circle. You see, with the tab, we can actually change its axes. Then, I want to make the dimensions exactly correct later, using the center line. If you see, the light is on. When I come here very calmly, you will notice that a colored mark appears next to our mouse, indicating that I am perpendicular to the y-axis. If it was like this, it would be aligned. If not, in this case, you can click on it for a moment and establish a relation. You will see that it has highlighted the mark with the y-axis. Well, I want to have another circle exactly on this page, so everyone here is enough for now. I will provide the measurements. The Smart Dimension shortcut is set. I want the top measurement to be a specific size, like 100, but a little smaller, around 80, for the height. How much should this be? For example, the same 100. I have provided these measurements very well, indeed. Now, at this point in time, we can do the same thing. On this axis, in the event that you hesitate for a moment, we can simply draw in a normal manner and say it ought to be on the x-axis. And now, the end of this part should align perfectly with this circle, so that it adheres securely. Let me do the same thing above. Well, I just wanted to find the ends of these two, so now I will connect them together using the line tool, and it will look something like this. Well, I want to make another move on my work to make it a bit more natural. I will draw a center line from here to here, and I want to give it an angle, for example, a 5-degree angle. I want to perform the same operation at the top as well. The Smart Dimension for these two will be set to an angle of 5 degrees without control. You might ask why I am doing this, and I will tell you. Just like the trim, I will remove this extra part. Now, let me first draw a circle here. To the extent, I think 40 shouldn't be bad, even 30 is fine. Now I'll just take my line and stop here. I'll simply pick up my trim again and cut this part. So far, I actually have something like this until it reaches the top. I'll also basically take this part off. You see, it's like a line that starts from here, goes around, goes up, and then curves back from this side. I want to create a wire-like shape here. And this still lacks something. These ears are very sharp. You see, if I go ahead with the sweep and say that I want it to have a circular axis, which is also my path, this 3D sketch that I worked on probably won't give me a preview because the thickness of 10 millimeters for these screws is too much. Let's try 4. So we see that it's okay, but if I confirm this, there are some sharp edges here that my wire can't bend as if it has been welded. Therefore I will delete this. If I want to apply a fillet, since the entire work was selected, applying the fillet took a long time because it thought I wanted to fillet the whole thing, which I didn't want to do. For example, if I consider these lines and set the size to say 2 millimeters, it seems that it can't apply a fillet at all. If it does, the corners will only be filleted and the whole work won't be. You might ask why I can't use a fillet in our 3D sketch. Unfortunately, since these are not on a specific axis and have a curved shape, this fillet doesn't work here. See, it worked here. Why? No, it didn't work here. These two worked because they are both on the same plane. Thank God we managed to get one of them to work. This one, which is also on the same plane, is acceptable. The fact that their surfaces change is something that cannot be accepted. It has no prior example. The two of them have caused a conflict. Now, if we want to do something like this ourselves, what should we do? I will use the spline to connect a line from here to there. I will remove the smart dimension and connect these two together. I will set the distance from here to be 5, and I will trim the excess. Now let's remember that it wasn't a line, it was a spline. And as you recall, a spline can bend. Therefore I will take this and control it, and I will also take the lower part and say that these two should be tangent to each other. I will perform the same operation on the upper part as well. Let's go back to the top and repeat this process. I will take the distance of 5 and 5 trims, remove the additions, and say these two are tangent, and these two are also tangent. So far, everything seems fine. Now, I want to perform the sweep operation, and I want it to have a circular diameter. I will select my 3D sketch to be chosen, and I will set the number to 2. It looks good. So I click OK. In fact, if you want to create something more professional and realistic, it might not be a bad idea to have this line come from this side as well, so that the skeleton can cover and hold it from both sides, or 4 sides, which is often the case. But this way is also acceptable since we just want to practice and use the techniques. Now that I've built the skeleton, I will move on to the part of the lighting shell that revolves around it. This depends on your design. Should I place this on the front page? Will it give me these in the middle of the circle? Yes, I will draw such a circle here. Lower down as well. Let me explain. I am drawing just a little bit larger, so let's also assign a number to it. The number 3 was definitely too much. So I think 2 and 8 are absolutely suitable for it. If we can certainly select these two together, we don't have friends at that size again. I will indeed equalize the friends. And then let's move on to the line. I will take it from one part and bring it to this point. In fact, I will completely delete the horizontal part and do precisely the same on this side. So far, so excellent indeed. I want this line and this circle to be tangent carefully. Well, my circle hasn't been fixed in place yet. That's why I moved it. Well, let's see what elements we can use to help. I have centered these two together. This won't need any more adjustments. What are the extra parts of this line and this circle that are tangent? By the way, I set my beam for a shortcut trim because I use it a lot. It speeds up our work. Where was it? The Customize tab is on the 5th keyboard. Everything is in the style box here. You can search for trim. This trim is for surfaces. In the sketch, you can see that I set a shortcut for myself. Now, let's go higher and repeat this operation, removing the extras. Well, now we can take an offset from this, because I want to rotate this around this work. If I come right now and hit revolve and then hit shortcut, if I hit revolve right now, let's make sure the sketch is selected. This merge option, even if I remove it, is a bulky thing that doesn't fit into that frame. We can do two things here. One is that I can take an offset from this sketch, like this, to a thickness of even 0.5 millimeter, or even less, 0.2 of a millimeter. Then I can perform the revolve operation. If I didn't perform this operation as an offset, then the team feature option, if you remember from the last session, when we turned it on, we hadn't done the offset yet. It comes up and asks what thickness you want to give it. In fact, here I would add that 0.2 of a millimeter so that it seems to create a shell for me. For the first time I did this work myself. I want it to rotate 360 degrees. As for the merge, we will say it shouldn't give me something like this. Of course, this part is wrong because it can't go outside from within that. But if we keep track, we can correct the sketch. However, as you can see, since I turned off the merge, I have a collection now. When I reward it, I right-click and select Change Transparency, so that the shell part I created becomes transparent, allowing me to see what I've done, for example. Later, we can adjust that part, for instance, to make it stick out. Let's move forward with our work for now. If we see that there is time, we will do it. Well, this part, as you know, is for the position that needs to be placed on the beam, and then the lamp comes out. I will use this front page and say I want to draw a sketch. For example, come from here to here. You can usually draw your schematic first, and then apply your correct and precise measurements. The design might not be very nice, but we are working like this anyway. I will carefully align these two with everyone and securely secure their ends with precision. Let's see if we can indeed definitely align this bottom line with this one. Or if I should say to stick this point to this line. Yes, in this way, I will make it a little bigger. Its appearance is not bad. I must not forget to close this. Very well, let's return to the shade and move on to a better reveal. It would have been better to give the dimensions of these, but you can draw them yourself. I will turn off the merge so that this body being created doesn't stick to the others. Let's pull a piece. You see here I've created a separate body that we can later loosen or give material to. I want to add a shape here. I don't know what it will turn out to be, but I want it to come out of this simplicity. Better, simpler, and prettier. However, everyone has their own taste, especially in the Iranian market where minimalism is not widely accepted. I want to have a triangle here at a 90-degree angle, meaning they should be perpendicular to each other. And let's see if this expands. Yes, these two should also be aligned with each other. Well, I drew this here, and I want to have the center on this side. As I mentioned, I will first draw the schematic, then I will say that these two lines should be parallel, and this point should actually align with this line. I will perform the same operations below. I must not forget that I want this point to be in line with the center of this. If you are using an old box cutter and it doesn't show you the midpoint, you can right-click on this line. It has a select midpoint option that will select the middle of this line for you. Now hold down the Control key and do this. You can make these two vertical. This can also be done. I just want to take a measurement from these two. For example, give them a distance of 40. I want this line to stick to this one, and this one to stick to that one. For example, I created a shape like this here. If this is 20, this one must definitely be 20 as well. Let's check the others. Yes. Let's set 40 and make it 35, for example. Now, I want to create a recess here. I will use the extrude cut and specify that you should start from the middle plane, starting from this surface. Then, how much should it go inside? For instance, let's say 2 millimeters. Okay? We are doing something like this here. Now let's move on to the circular pattern, or the axis of the cut that has been selected. And we can choose according to the axis of this surface or whatever circular thing. It's acceptable to the number here. You see? Since it's 360 degrees, you can look at these two. These 3, 4 here. Of course, if you have a bit of math and geometry skills, you can come up with some numbers that match together. Now it's clear that this size should not be equal to 10. And when I think about it a bit, this is still smaller. But from a distance, it works for us as an example. The good thing about working with the body is that, for example, I can right-click on these two and choose to hide them temporarily. Or I can say, just come out and see. And it tells me that you've been working for 20 minutes and haven't saved the files. It's better that we do this. For example, we say lighting. The video is pointless. We will carefully create a shape here that fits nicely inside it. Then we need to carefully hollow it out and create a carefully twisted shape. After that, we will carefully add a lamp that we will carefully stretch. I think now you don't have any work left, right? It's a very simple revolve. Now, let's assume that it has a socket where our lamp goes inside. Perhaps, let's say it's one of those old lamps that looks like a lantern, maybe. We can design a new lamp ourselves, perhaps with intricate details and unique features, which is quite interesting indeed. For example, such a shape. You might wonder why I am seeing this. It is in my mind that this must be perpendicular, because when the towel line goes to the cycle, the angle should not have any indentation or protrusion. Well, let's rotate this a bit. We mentioned that we might ask if I should remove the merge like this. Well, I would say I didn't remove the merge. This cylinder that I probably added has the merge option turned on. Yes, when merge is on, you see, because it has contact, it's probably saying that it wants to merge these two together. I shouldn't have done this. Or for example, I could have turned off the merge to say no, let's keep them separate and do something cooler. I'm going back to the past, meaning that when I created this, I wanted this piece to be merged with this body. Let's pay close attention to this part. I can say yes, I want it to merge, but not both, just this one. Now that I hit OK, you see it's done. Now we have three bodies, this frame, that shell, and this whole body here. And now the lamp that gets added is recognized as the fourth body. I can select this surface right now, currently, at this moment, and since I didn't select the center, I want to subtract a space like this from it. In this particular space, I want this operation to only and exclusively affect this body, because if the body was lit, this lamp would also delete its component part. It would perform an export cut operation. We do have a command or tool here called Hell Wizard or something like that, which creates a threaded effect or appearance. We can see the original version as well. It creates a threaded appearance or look. But since I haven't explained the spring effect or feature to you yet, I don't want to confuse you for now, for the time being. Let's keep this for now. And also, the lamp has become very large or oversized. Do you accept? know it's not for you. For example, we wanted to have a wire section as well. Of course, I used the 3D sketch to have this layout, but I wanted you to work with the TV disc so that you get a feel for handling these types of components. This wire needs to come out from somewhere, and we can give it an angry shape. Since I'm here, I want to start my extrusion from this point, so I can push it out like this. This part won't cause me any issues, because when the merge is on, I can even tell it to only engage with this part, which is fine for me to proceed. Now, let me check the unseen lines. We see that it seems to have only pushed out from this. However, if I were to remove this merge, you can see that these two cylinders are inside each other, which of course is not possible in the real world. A solid volume cannot contain another solid volume. Just one thing to be very precise about is that when the merge is on, you saw that I didn't have the auto select mode on. I had to select this myself. Sometimes, if other parts are engaged with each other, it not only merges this with that, but it might also merge the upper body with areas that are in contact with it. Suddenly, you might notice that I had 4 bodies until now, but why do I only have 2 now? You need to go back and see where you were working. You see, right here, I drew a cylinder and didn't pay attention that this frame merged with this cylinder. At that moment, I only had 2 bodies. As we move forward, you will indeed become a bit more familiar with this form. The circular connection I drew was a bit large, but now it's not a problem. What about the filter? This is the same filter, it just cooks it to soften it. Now we want to pull a wire out of this. Alright, let's go into 3D sketch. I will take this and start from the middle of the banana. It's very important how this comes out. I will click on the tab. The Y and X axes are good for me. Since I selected the middle of the banana, this selection information came out for me. I want the Y and X. If you guys are clicking on the tab, this won't change. If something else has happened, close your file and reopen it. Reopen the box style. It will align. I still haven't figured out why this happens. Right now, as you can see, everything I do is coming out correctly. But sometimes this problem might occur. The softwares we are currently using are really good. I bring this here, but as I change the 3D sketch, I just pull it like this. I can see them from the side of the softwares in this way. The wire definitely can't go up in these snake-like positions. Gravity pulls it down because this ground needs to be a bit defined for us. How is it? Before I draw the 3D sketch, I should at least say that my top page is up here, and I can use this lower page to create a floor or a surface for myself. For now, let's keep it schematic, a simple shape. For example, with a thickness of 20 and the merge turned off, so that it doesn't become a solid piece. I've placed this on the ground here. Now, I bring this line down and look at it again. Now I have a better understanding of what the story is about. Guys, why did I bring this up in the past? If my export was, after the 3D sketch, when I hit edit, it doesn't show me the future of it anymore, for example. I have now exploded this, and after a few adjustments, I want to change its sketch. You can see that neither the lower part, nor this line, nor a few others are present anymore, because these will take shape in the future. You can also bring some of your objects in manual mode, but this one won't move back any further, because one element of this sketch is related to an element here. If I pull it back, since the element hasn't actually come into existence yet, it won't allow me to do so, because it is dependent on it. If I go back, probably the same. Relation I mentioned will start this line from the middle of the circle. In fact, our relation connects these two together, and as long as that exists, it won't allow me to go back. If I go to delete it, it will probably allow me to bring it closer. So keep this in mind. Let's take another look at it. Let's go to edit our TDD sketch. We told you that if you right-click and select this option, the axis will come to the center. Many kids tend to snap this to the ground, but don't do that because this wire has a certain rigidity that we need to consider. Now, since we don't want it in an engineering state and just need it for rendering, we don't need to be too strict. I realize that I have a lot of this hand in this area, so I can create a shortcut for it. Let's go ahead and do that. I might need to remember a key combination. Yes. So what shortcut should I press? I need to press X. It says that X is currently activated for the address filter. I don't know what it is. There are so many subcategories and operations that can be performed in it that only God knows. Is there even anyone who knows the entire software back to front? So, it asks if you want to set this up, and I say yes. Now, when I press X, you can see that it comes up very easily. It can even utilize these handling techniques, such as meaning that here it comes down to the ground, then goes back up again. Logically, this can even be a bit higher. For instance, I can bring this one down like this, but this one has gone up quite a lot in this manner as a result. In such cases, you can also use the dual view mode, where one is linked to the other. What does that mean? It means that when I zoom in on one, the other one also zooms in. With this option, it says that if I unlink the views, I can have the side view separate while keeping this one in isometric. Let me say, it's really good that you came here. For example, you went down too much here. I need to select it. I press the X key and I bring it up a bit. Of course, we need to adjust the mouse sensitivity a little. Here's will come down. I'm saying it's a bit tedious work, but it's a good opportunity to become more familiar with these handling techniques. Why don't I take this approach? Because if you see it for a moment, I bring it down. Now, if you didn't understand this, for example, if I want this point to stick to this, it will take it and place it here. That's why we use this axis. It gives us peace of mind that something is definitely happening on the axis, like the x-axis. Let me see how it turned out. Not bad. I feel like it's not bad at all. Very good. I want to use the same section of the circle. I say no on this page, which is flat. I can allow myself to sketch. Then it starts to come out crooked. Let's do a cool operation. You'll see a cool thing can be done. I have a center line. I draw on the x-axis here. Now I select this and hold this control firmly. I will carefully and precisely move these two together, which means the movement mode should come out. It makes our work very natural and efficient. Now, I will draw a perfect circle here on this page, ensuring it is well proportioned and accurate. I will make this circle equal to these two here, which are part of the design. I've been a bit impatient with my work lately, and I need to focus more. Yes. I will draw a line like this, ensuring precision and accuracy, and convert it to for construction, so that the line becomes dotted and clear. Here is a circle, and here is another circle. We will make these two equal to each other. I will bring them inside each other like this, so that I can trim them later. Also, I want to add a filter here. How about the number 2 for it? Is that too much? At this point, there are no further steps or actions to take. We have reached the end of the sequence, and nothing more follows. This is also a step in this path. What I hit is just the same story of Mirjave, but in the water section, the default state is on, but I say I made a mistake. I want it to be off. For example, I drew a wire, and now I've realized that it went underground. See, this is the section we drew, and it was a bit too much. Now, there are two options. Either I raise this line or actually reduce the thickness of my wire. Both options are possible. It got a little bit more better indeed. When we said to give it a plug, I think that's most definitely the most straightforward thing we can do. Can we easily find the center of these two circles and simply connect them? Yes. Now the center of this line is also defined. I can use this option to draw something like this. It should even be much larger than this. For now, let's not worry about that part. Let's just get our work done. It should merge with this sign now, and it should seamlessly integrate with the existing sine wave pattern, which is actually 2. Then we can simply take the fork out and measure the distances to correct them and deal with these kinds of issues. We won't do it anymore. You do it now. The socket is ready to connect to the computer. As for the option, we call it dome, but I didn't quite understand what the main pronunciation is. Now we refer to it as a dome, since I use it a lot. I've set up some tools, around it for myself. First, let me tell you what the dome does. It domes this part, but the height is quite high. You can see how it shapes into a dome. It has two modes, elliptical and regular. The difference is that to understand, when I select this, you can see it domes, but when the elliptical is on, it comes forward and domes this. This becomes the actual shape. So, which mode do I want? I want this mode. Yes, the elliptical mode. But elliptical, yes, I will do it all. In this shape. That's enough for it. Oh, there's a bug I have. I don't know if it should be a bug or not. When I select two sets, this elliptical mode disappears, meaning I first need to confirm this, then come back and select this dome again to activate it. By the way, if you want this mode to reverse and go inside, you press the reverse. In this way, it actually creates a dome shape from that side. But if you don't have this in the normal state, where should you go? In the insert features, all the commands are here for the dome. So you can have a shortcut here. I can take a save. This section is empty, or here. You can find Customize. Customize. This time, instead of the keyboard, check the comments. You will find what this subset of insert features is. In a normal situation, it might not have a base here, but there is a command you enjoy. For example, you might not have this abdon in your spirit. I have added it for myself. You can find it here. Here it is. I'm dragging it right over, which means I hold the click and drop it here, carefully. We can just have it. But since I don't want to, I'll simply remove it and actually destroy it. Well, we don't need this surface anymore, because the salil back, floor and the walls can indeed determine the layout for you. I know the overall form might not be overly complicated or particularly interesting, but as you can see, it's just for training. So let me take a sip. And now let's move on to our new lesson, which is about the command for starting when we have an empty space. My need is to create a few pages. We briefly touched on page creation in the first session in this context. At this point, but now I want to get a little more familiar with it. In this way, I will select the top plane, for example. In the features, the geometry reference has the blend subset. We can have our new top plane. When the top plane is selected, it automatically indicates that I want to create a new surface that is parallel to the top plane but with a distance of approximately 10 millimeters. I can specify 20, 30, or 40 millimeters instead. If I select the flip option, this 40 millimeters will move down. How many do you want? It can be 1, 2, or 3. Now let's go ahead and do this. Let's assume you haven't selected anything, and if you click this option, it will tell you that I have 3 references. Please specify these 3 references so that I can create the new page. Since there is nothing here on the top plane, I will have to say that I will use the top plane for help. It doesn't really make a difference. The second and third references are not needed, because the top plane alone is sufficient. For example, if I come here and click on the vertical option, it will ask me to specify another reference, so that I can align the vertical page for you. We needed one more line or page. Now I will tell you to click, but first, let's practice a little with the top plane. I want to have a plane with a height of approximately 70 here, and relative to this new plane, I want to have another plane at a distance of exactly 140. So, in fact, I have these now. I'm coming into the top plane very well, and I start by drawing a circle here. In the top plane, it has now flipped. Yes, in our new plane, we want to draw our second sketch. It can be a circle or any other shape. Let's use a polygon that is slightly smaller than the circle. Now I exit the sketch, and this time in plane number 2. I say again, I want a circle. I can draw such a circle here once more, but to practice convert again, I brought this circle that is accepted on that stack. This is on our top plane. If I select it, it will be selected badly. When I click on convert, it seems to throw the circle's x coordinate onto this plane. I hope you have become familiar with the concept of convert. Now we still have work to do with it. It can be used a lot. I have also drawn these 3 sketches, and I kindly ask you, since we no longer need these pages, to make sure they don't clutter our shape. I emphasize, do not click delete at all. If you click delete, it will give an error saying that this sketch you created is missing something. Well, it's clear what is missing. It was supposed to be on the page, but that page no longer exists. So, I will just come back. I will just hide it, meaning I just don't really want to see it. Now here, we will actually use the loft. It says to introduce the vertices to me. Which ones are exactly called vertices? You might select them in such a way that it looks like this. You see, it seems like it wants to convey this point to this point, then twist it back to its original state. If I approve it, unless your design is really like this, we can use this command. But to avoid these issues, it's better to select this using a tree diagram. The tree diagram is not exactly here. It's slightly shifted over to the sketch. It tries to align these as much as possible for me. A form like this has come here. It can either replace this triangular shape, or be another form instead, or it can replace the last circle in my core solution. I want to change the sketches. I can come here and, for example, select this circle. We wanted it to be a convert, so I will delete this convert relation. I will take this much larger, and it will look like this. The idea is that we can create a glass of ice, but let me tell you, there is almost no shape that you cannot reach from a point or a circle to another shape using basic terminology. Let's have an example here. For drawing a cone, you know that you can use revolve. When we use revolve, which has become quite common for us now, we can avoid going for a loft. It's clear that I can have a cone this way. But if I want to think about it now, since it was revolve, it had a circular shape. Let's think of it like the pyramids of Egypt. I don't know. They're vertices, but I think They have 4 vertices. Let's create a square where these two are equal to each other. It's very important to remember that when you are in the sketch environment, you cannot create a plane until you exit the sketch. You see these two symbols which indicate that you are in the sketch environment. You must exit it to create the plane. Now you will see the plane appear. I apologize if I mispronounce some words. Please forgive me. Well, I will select the new plane above. This is also a point. We can use this. Alright, I will place it here in a star shape. I remember to hide the plane I created. Now I will click on Loft. Can we reach a point from this sketch? Yes, it's acceptable. Now, as you can see, I referred to the name of the sketch. I should have placed it in the middle in the design. I wanted to show that having it in the corner will not create any issues at all. Furthermore, another important point we should mention about the loft is that there is a horizontal plane above, which I am going to place in order to better understand the structure, to see it. Whenever you want to edit a plane, at any given time, you can right-click on it and select Edit the Feature option. It doesn't matter if the dimension is 200 or 190. Regardless of the fact that there's no problem, there will be absolutely no problem at all. We can also create another plane above it if you wish. This is an exceptionally good form that I can show here. Let me tell you, if you feel that you have drawn the sketch on the wrong plane, for example, if you should have drawn it on the upper plane, you can right-click on your sketch and select the second option, which is Edit Sketch Plane. It will show you that you are currently on plane 1, as indicated here. If it said plane 2, it would bring it over there, without changing the relations and its position as much as possible. But since I had drawn it correctly, I actually wanted it to be right here and have another square above it. Well, these planes are really bothering me now, so I will hide them. Alright, let's move on to Loft. I just want to show you a distinction here. If I simply choose this section and then go to this point and come back to this, you can actually see it has created a loft from these. This has become our form. Now, if we say to perform two operations, I mean to say to use Loft to go from this point to that point and see if it is flat, there is nothing in between. Now that you have done this, this surface is acceptable for us. We definitely need to draw another rectangle on this plane. If you were going to do this, you know how to create this sketch on this plane. When you create this sketch and convert it, it will give you the outline all around. But I don't need to do that because I want to use Loft to connect this sketch to this surface. You just see that these are not aligned, so I will shift it and send it over. By doing this, if you use the 2 steps, you can avoid that situation for the geometry. Let me give you an explanation about creating a plane that we will use later, especially for this exercise. we have a sketch here, a circle here, and I want to extrude both of them. Now that I have extruded them, I will apply a couple of fillets and give some forms here. Very good. Now we have a few more options for creating planes. This goes back to a bit of geometry knowledge. I don't know how much you remember, but they say that a plane passes through 3 points. For example, my first reference point is this point. The second is this point. And the third is this point. You see, from these 3, I can place a point on a plane and then have this plane here. For example, I can select it and draw a sketch here, and then I can extrude and cut it. We gave an example of seeing it from the side, and then we see that it is completely tilted exactly in the new plane created. Now, there are other formats. For example, I will select this plane, and along with this angry shape, you can see that it says, I have made this plane perpendicular from here and tangent to this circle. Now, maybe if I bring it from the perpendicular position to a parallel position, yes, this new plane has become parallel to it and touched it. This is a sample of the touch, and if I flip it, it will go to the other side of that area. Another thing that is very useful for you is, for example, if you want to have a plane at an angle, you first create a flat plane here. In the second reference, you come and select a line that will be, for example, the hinge of this new plane. What does hinge mean? Here, instead of the perpendicular position, I bring it to an angle position where I can change the 45-degree angle to, for example, 120 degrees. You see, it seems like it is lifting from this plane here and bringing it to this part. This is also very useful, and there are many other options to create a new plane. Oh, I should also tell you that in the first session, I used it and told you that we would definitely explain more. Imagine that I select this plane and this plane. It automatically turns on the mid option and gives us the middle plane here. The cool thing is that even if they have angles, it calculates their resultant and gives me a common plane. If I choose a state with 2 flat planes, which is completely clear, for instance, for example, I don't know the height of these, so I select the plane from here and ask what the distance should ideally be. I don't know what the number is. Should it be approximately between 20 and 35? Or maybe so? Well, what can we do? We can place the reference point up here again. Although now its angle has changed, we need to adjust it. It's much easier for me to execute the command again and say from this plane and this plane, it will automatically activate the mode, and I can have the middle plane there as well. Okay, let's go back to this part and talk a bit more about lofting. If I have created half of a piece, usually we create half of symmetrical pieces so that in the end we can mirror them. For example, I want to work with a banana. I actually draw a line on the top plane to create a shape like a banana using a spline, and then I tidy it up a bit. For example, I need to remember to close this area so that it gets highlighted. Now what I need to do is make this and this perpendicular to each other. I won't do this part for you to see what issues might arise. So far, I want to keep this in mind. Now, I come to the plane that is perpendicular to this, which is my writing plane, and I want to draw a sketch again. Yes, I want to draw this shape from the side view, so that this shape, which is brought out by the hydraulic hand, is the issue we are addressing. We are working on it and fixing it. But I must remember to check the bottom as well. I keep mentioning this. Now let's move on to the loft. I want this sketch to connect to this sketch. If you happen to not see this preview and it looks like this, it means that this sketch is being created at the end of that, which should not show you the preview at all. Therefore, drop this green point here. Okay, now is this enough for us? Or do I need to? Oh, we also have a guide curve here that we can use to draw a reference line. For now, we are not dealing with the guide curve. I have a start and end here, and if I bring it to the normal state in the profile, it will look like this. What does that mean? It makes it perpendicular to this plane. Let's check the side view and see what it looks like. Look at how it became perpendicular and reached this point. This is what it was. So this idea is also easy for this guy. You know what I mean. I did this work. Now I'm going to mirror it based on this page. And it gives me a form like this. Naturally, you can disregard these lines. We can go to the Evaluate option and select Zebra to show us these lines, so we can see the play of light in it. We see that these lines have passed here without any breaks, but it's clear that the situation isn't good here. You can also see that a bit of work has gone wrong here. The rest of the work can be done this way. Now, why did these things happen? It's because when I was sketching, I didn't say, oh, this line should be perpendicular to this line. Now that we've made the first one perpendicular, the second one doesn't understand it anymore. So, I draw a center line from here downwards and say that this line must definitely be perpendicular to it, and this line should be parallel to that line. Well, I need to do the same things for the other sketch as well. No, this is the one I did. I want this one, yes. You can even draw a center line from this same point. You don't even need to align the two together. Yes, well, this is one method. So, this was very poorly done. I draw a horizontal line and make these two tangent to each other. It became a form like this. Of course, this has become very common now. I remember that when the start option, meaning it started from here, went, this was normal for me. I profiled it, and I can also do this with the lower part, which is also perpendicular to the bottom. You can adjust this amount in many handling options. See, a lot of work has been done. Now, if we push it too far forward, it won't be interesting at all. You also have a manual mode where you can input numbers. Now, I'll adjust both a little, which I think is okay. When it gets mirrored, it becomes very distorted. So I need to completely redo my sketch.
There are too many points here causing trouble, which can lead to confusion and inefficiency in our work process. Can we delete the points? Yes, it's simple. You just need to carefully select the copy by highlighting the specific area you want to modify and then press the delete key on your keyboard. By doing this, it will become more manageable and organized, allowing for a smoother workflow and better clarity in our tasks. The app needs to be more detailed, to look more similar. Now, when I click on Zebra, let's see how much cleaner the form has become down here. We have a bit of distortion here, but it's not enough to bother us. Can we take a moment to check if I've missed anything? No, this is because the column has taken this form. It's not good from here. When it becomes sharp, our form actually has Iran in it, which is quite interesting because it adds a unique dimension to the overall structure. You can even mirror the entire collection downwards now, which creates a fascinating visual effect that enhances the overall aesthetic. Don't consider the lines around it. Let's apply the martyr mode, which is a technique that allows us to focus on the core elements without distraction. They exist, so let's go back and look at the zebra mode again, which offers a contrasting perspective that can be very enlightening. The light glides through it completely, creating a seamless transition that is both smooth and visually appealing. Okay, so we can use this normal command in the profile a lot, which is very useful for maintaining consistency and efficiency. If this command manager gets lost like this, just press this button and it will come out, ensuring that you can always regain control and continue working without interruption. We've come quite far, and the video is getting a little bit long, but it's indeed a significant lesson. As you may already know, you might not know that the boundary also does the same work, but now we'll thoroughly cover these topics in detail in the next session and tell you what the story is about. I just want to share this comprehensive guide curve with you because your next exercise is somewhat closely related to your creativity. I want to ask you to design a perfume bottle with your own design. Here, you might use this guide that I want to tell you about. This guide is comprehensive and detailed, providing necessary information. For example, let's draw a busy scene here. For instance, let us illustrate a complex scene. Who is who? Indeed, I must say that no, I didn't enjoy it, which I found to be quite disappointing. To be honest, I hope you draw a triangle if you don't mind. Additionally, I would like to emphasize that my experience was not as pleasant as I had anticipated. It was, in fact, rather underwhelming and did not meet my expectations. For example, I shouldn't forget that the plane should definitely be selected above the triangle. Now I will create the triangles. I will also remove extra and unnecessary pages and clean them up in this way. What's the purpose? Let's make the bottom triangular. You see, because going back to the past, they won't see the upper triangles anymore. I think they were around here. As you can see, you see that these guiding lines don't affect our work, but now let's delete them. Well, it gives us an error because, for example, it says that the triangle you drew was centered in the middle of that square, and it has the right to be there. So you see, one of the edges turned yellow, and the other triangle on top definitely has an issue, which I also erased. You can see that the error has been resolved. In a typical or normal situation, when we apply this method or technique together, it usually gives us this particular form or result, right? But now I want to talk about what the guide curve is guiding lines. Here, it becomes much better to draw with the disc beam. I will connect these 3 points together. Now that they are connected, I will give them a V shape. Now, let's say these 3 have been connected in the guide curve section. I will also select this line. What does it actually do? It says that we set these 3 together as nothing. We also follow this, the guide curve that you drew. Now I can have 3 guide curves. I can draw on this side and on that side. At this stage, I only ask you to draw any guide curve that you need in a separate sketch. Let me show you again. I will create a new sketch. I drew one as a line so that it connects smoothly to the end. What is the reason for this? When you connect these together, it leads to this, and this in the guide curve section. You can easily select this. You see, I also selected the second sketch. When 2 guide curves are in one sketch, or you might have 3 of 4 guide curves, a selection manager message will pop up for you, and you might get a bit confused at this stage. So please, for now, I recommend keeping them separate. I will definitely explain this to you later. For now, use this system where they are separate. I also want to mention that if you have drawn the disc beam sketch and created a guide curve, and then for any reason you exit the command, if the disc sketch is selected, and you click on the disc sketch again, it will edit that same disc sketch. You might think you wanted to open a new one, but it will change the existing disc sketch. So please select a blank space and then click on the disc sketch again. So now that second one will be treated as a new set. Alright, so far so good. Thank you for your efforts. For the next session, I want you to create a perfume bottle as your main exercise, which must be done using Loft. The shape can be your own design. You can take inspiration from the bottles around your house, like colognes, or from the internet. It's better not to copy, but if you do find a really nice shape and end up copying it, that's okay. However, I want you to incorporate some details into it. When you finish, make it look like this. What does a loft do? It creates a shell, leaving it hollow with a thickness of about 2 millimeters. If I make this transparent, you will see that it has become hollow. Then you can hollow out this part, perform an accelerated cut, and draw a stopper for the spray section. We should have a sweep, and the more holes the spray section has, the better. You need to create a cap for it. For example, if you have a bottle shaped like this is your main exercise. If you reach that point, which I hope you will, many of you have sent me your exercises, but you haven't completed them, if you don't complete the exercise. Unfortunately, you won't be able to proceed with sessions 1, 2, and 3 here either. You must refer back to previous sessions, because our exercises are constantly being repeated and interconnected. If you have completed this exercise, I ask you to create a study lamp. The study lamp must definitely use the accelerated cut, sweep, and loft techniques, and if it also includes shell, fillet, and circular patterns, that would be even better. So please focus on the main perfume bottle exercise, and if you reach that point, we will incorporate the study lamp with all the operations we have worked on so far. Thank you, and see you in the next session.